Um, we had hoped to do a forum this week on connected to the stories of Scripture rooted around women's reproductive health. And we had been trying to connect with some medical providers in our community, and it just didn't come together, unfortunately. And so kind of faced with the reality of, none of us felt prepared to take on that particular topic with the care it deserves. And so we pondered, and the Adult Ed Committee endorsed my idea, which is a question which seems to come up with some increasing frequency around what we all experience in our lives, in our online and our digital lives, is how there are people who take advantage of that platform and those different platforms to try and do ill and scam us. And I don't think that the church world is particularly unique in being targeted. However, there are things about a community of faith that makes us particularly vulnerable, I believe. And so to certain types of scams and certain types of things. And I'm hoping that you all have some experiences that you can help illustrate and share together, and thinking about practices. What we want to drive towards are, what are some practices that would be helpful to keep us mindful and safe. And I'm going to hand off this microphone to one of my colleagues on the Adult Ed Committee to help as it passes around. You just push and hold the power button, and it'll fire up. And so, yeah, anyway, so I did some research this week, and which I trusted the internet to provide me information about what sorts of online, and maybe I got scammed by that. Who knows, right? Like, or what do you know? I probably chose poorly with my font colors and things like that, given this room. But I came up with a list of 15 different scams, and no way is this comprehensive, right? But you can see the variety of things and some distinctive things that activities that happen in our online world and our digital world that have morphed into becoming relatively they must be lucrative. I keep, that's my mantra, is like, they wouldn't do it if it wasn't successful, right? They wouldn't keep coming back with these things. And not to mention all the this is totally ignoring all the cell phone targeted scam stuff about, renewing your car warranties, and favorable loan terms and whatever it might be. So, but phishing is the very first thing listed there. And you see that spelling with PH, but we say it's called a phishing scam, which is really all encompassing, sort of an umbrella term, which many of these you would consider as as sort of specific forms of phishing. But the idea of phishing is really casting a broad net, right? And using the online capacity to just send, same effort to send one email as it to send millions of emails, right? Next to the same effort, right? And so phishers cast their nets very, very broadly in hopes of snaring even just a few unsuspecting people. But there are some specific things that will go on. But within that arena, social media scams, online shopping, tech support, investment, lottery and prize scams, employment scams, impersonation scams, subscription and trial scams, fake charity, online dating and romance. Maybe you've heard the phrase catfishing, which is another form of phishing, right? That's where that comes from. Rental or real estate scams, fake software or app scams, cryptocurrency, which is sort of the new frontier, maybe perhaps, and then some other financial online loan scams. So there's a list of 15 things there. I'm going to start with phishing because it's sort of more broadly something that we, again, kind of it's a little bit more all-encompassing, so we'll use that word a lot today. Phishing, but phishing scams involve fake emails, text messages, or websites that impersonate legitimate organizations to steal personal information, okay? Very common targets, online banking, social media, and commerce sites. Also very common targets, members of faith communities and the staff of faith communities. Signs of these scams are languages that that create a sense of urgency. We need your response, or your account will get locked, or there's some if you don't respond quickly, then this thing doesn't happen, and we need your help to make it happen. So, because they're cast so broadly, oftentimes they have very generic language, right? They're not personal, not particularly personalized. They don't say dear Peter, they say dear friend, dear user, hey, how you doing? Just really generic stuff and not personalized at all. And then the identifier of, if you look closely, you'll see that, oh, PA1 is not the same as PayPal, but if you're reading quickly, that looks like you're at a legitimate website, paypal.com, which is a large online commerce payment processing thing that's very common in many websites and things that you purchase online. You might go through PayPal, but if you're on a site that looks like PayPal, and if you look closely at the address, you'll see that it's slightly different, and that it's being nefarious in its sense. I've got a phishing scam I want to share with you. This one we received, and I know it's small. I'll just sort of point out some details. So on our website here at Prince of Peace, we have a place where people can contact us, and they can fill out a little form, and it sends us their message. It's contact the pastor. You're curious about something, or whatever it might be. And so somebody 4 years ago used came to our website and put in this email. This filled out a form which sends me an email. It sends Kristen an email. This came from Mel Murdoch, and then you see their email address listed there and their phone number, and it says, "Hey, hi there. This is Melissa, and I'm a qualified photographer. I was baffled, to put it nice, when I found my images at your website. If you use a copyrighted image without an owner's approval, you need to be aware that you could be sued by the copyright holder. It's not legal to use stolen images. It's so disgusting. Here is the document with the links to my images that you used at www.poproseville.org, which is our web address, and my earlier publications to get the evidence of my ownership. Download it now and check this out for yourself." And there's the link to where you can get that important download. If you don't remove the images mentioned in the file above within the next few days, I'll file a complaint on you to your hosting provider, letting them know that my copyrights have been severely infringed and I'm trying to protect my intellectual property. And if it doesn't work, you may be pretty damn sure I'm going to take it to court. And I will not bother myself to let you know of it in advance. Wow. I mean, we're a church. We don't do things illegal. We don't borrow people's stuff. Oh my gosh, maybe I did grab that Google image off the internet to put on a advertisement for an upcoming Sunday forum. I don't know, so pretty easy. Well, let's get to the bottom of this. Let's just click on this link. So I see shaking heads, right? Yeah, that's the big one. That's the big no-no. Just don't click on the link, right? If this was serious, if there was somebody who really had a legitimate claim, is this how they reach out to us? Is this what it would look like? Other clues. This email address that's plugged in here, if you're a professional photographer and your business was selling your photographs, do you think your email address would be mphotographer9437? gmail.com? No. No. That email address is unique to this particular scam. Somebody sitting in a cubicle or an office in some other country, most likely, has crafted this particular targeted email to send to a number of organizations like ours. And that email address is unique to this particular scam. And so that's how it's one of the ways they can keep track of what they're doing. So when they get a reply to this email address, they know that it's because of this storyline, right? And that unique the 9437 or, whatever is helping them keep track, probably. It's also, you just wouldn't use that if that was a business. You wouldn't set that up for yourself that way, because you want people, when you're in business, you want people to have a memorable email address in case they don't have it to write it down. Oh, you're Peter at POP Roosevelt, of course. How many Peters can there be, right? So other clues about this that jump out at you. Anything else?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, right.
Language.
The harsh language. There's some, boy, this person's mad. Maybe I should take this seriously. And we're churches, we don't like to make people mad, right? And so how can I respond? Other things that jump out at you.
The last line, I will not bother myself.
Yeah, I won't bother. Yeah.
The language is a little.
Yeah, the language. It sort of presents like they would be an American, somebody, in the area, but the diction doesn't quite flow, right? Yeah.
Well, it's shaming also.
Yeah.
Saying it's so disgusting, so they're picking up on emotion.
Yeah. There are some clever things about this, right? What happens if I click on that link? Yeah. I'm going to download, most likely I'm going to download something that's called malware, M-A-L-ware, and that puts a little program onto my computer that runs in the background that mines the things on my computer that might be helpful to them. Personal information, banking information, malware is capable of doing all kinds of nasty things, including linking us to one of the other kinds of scams that are out there. So phishing, the broader term of phishing is about capturing information, all right? Now, and personal information and gathering up helpful things that can be clues. Now, here's a reality. One of the reasons Prince of Peace is such a targeted venue is because our website is fairly it's familiar. My name is all over that. It takes you seconds to know the name of the lead pastor of this church. It takes you seconds, and I would say that's a good thing, right? Like when people legitimately are curious about Prince of Peace, what's one of the things that they're really interested to know? I wonder who their pastor is. I wonder if I know them, or I have this legitimate business or legitimate request of this congregation. I'd like to be able to address the lead pastor in person. So my name is on the website. Guess what else is on the website? My email address is on our website. Well, of course, because we want people to be able to email us, right? And the office phone number is on this. And if you dig into some of our other correspondence, you can find my cell phone number on our website. So generally, there are congregations that do take a little bit more of a locked down approach. You can't see the actual email address of the pastor or the staff person. That you can click on a button and it will generate an email that will go to that person, but you don't actually see what their address is. You'll see it the second you send that email. And so it's really not that hidden. It just takes one more step for them to kind of go out. So an automated bot can probably still go out and grab that information. And a lot of that phishing work is really done in an automated way. Someone has written a line of code and script to send out messages like this, to capture up what comes back in response and to kind of organize it and to go after it. And in this case, what they really want you to do is download that piece of malware onto the device that you're reading that from. So, yeah, Steve.
Are there dangers when an email like that comes in to open the email? I know going to the link is a problem.
Yeah.
But I've always kind of been hesitant.
Yeah, no, the quick answer is no. Does it mean that there are smarter types of tools out there that maybe there is something? Generally, if you're just reading the email through your, whatever your email software is, you're not, it's clicking on the link that will be the action. The act of opening, having the email opened in front of you shouldn't trigger something like that. But I'm not a professional, so is there examples of that? Probably. I also want to point out, this is another, I went through my email, but I've been saving some of these over time. I realized I hadn't saved all of the examples because I was looking for one specific example, but this is something else that happened. Milt, who I've worked with regularly, sent me an email and I didn't get it. And we were trying to figure out, because it was important, it was something to do with Sunday's anthem, and he wanted lyrics on the slide or something like, and it wasn't happening, and he was frustrated. He's like, I sent you that information. I'm like, I didn't get it. And so we dug into it and tried to figure it out. Well, here he sent it to Pastor Peter Christ. But what do you see next to my name? pr.peter.poproseville@gmail.com. How did that happen? It's because when you interact with an email in your email software, whether you're using Gmail or whether you're using, I have Apple Mail. I use a MacBook and I have Apple Mail, and I just use that. Or if you use Outlook or whatever your program is that runs your email, that you get to view your emails on, if you were to respond to something or click on something that's in that email, your software is smart enough to remember that you've emailed or you've interacted with that person, and it sort of saves that address in your potential contact list. It may not be in your official contact list, but it remembers that this is somebody you wanted to interact with. So Milt started to write an email, and he wrote, like many of us do, starts writing Peter. And the first email address that populates into this, send this to thing is this address, because Milt had received sometime prior a spam email, a scam email from this address, which is completely fake, but someone had created it to look like it was from me. Okay, that happens constantly. People will send you emails that look like they come from me, because when you create an email address, you get to tell your software, what's the name you want displayed here? That could be anything. This could say Santa Claus, okay? Whoever created the email address creates this. So if I'm a scammer, I'm going to create an email address that says it's from Pastor Peter Christ, because I found his name on the website, all right? And then they plug in, and then they make the email address look like it could be legit. You see PR, Pastor Peter, my name, and then POP Roseville. You're smart enough to know that. Well, that POP Roseville's on everything at Prince of Peace. That's our web address, part of our web address. So, boy, that sure looks like it could be a legitimate email, right? Except we don't use Gmail here at Prince of Peace. We have our own. We use poproseville.org. That's our extension after the @ symbol. All of our POP addresses are only legitimate if they have POP Roosevelt on the other side of the @ symbol, right? And so, boy, they sure make it look hard, don't they? So Milt sent this email unknowingly to this bogus Gmail account. It never got to me, right? But we tracked it down and we figured out, what had happened. So if this happens, you can see if you're reading my notes there, it just says, this was probably some old spam phishing email address. You should go in and actively delete it from your, you can in Gmail, you can block it, you can report it as spam, you can report it as phishing or a scam thing. And then you can delete it from the potential list of contacts so that the next time you just start typing Peter, this address won't come up, but hopefully my legitimate one will. So yeah, so that's just the thing about identity and those scammers who create bogus emails constantly. I'd love to look up the statistic. What number of Gmail addresses ever created are actually legitimate versus nefarious or whatever? Social media. Raise your hand if you have a social media account. So that's like a Facebook page or an Instagram page. So a little over half of the room here. Quite honestly, that's not an age-specific thing. Like everybody's on social media, in some ways, and the amount of scamming that is happening now on social media is really astronomical. And it's being accelerated by the fact that most of these platforms are now figuring out how to monetize their platforms in such a way that a scammer can pay very little bit of money and actually get priority viewing and priority placement for things that look legitimate but really are scam. A lot of this is around e-commerce, right? So you'll see an ad for a really nice looking shirt. Wow, I'd like to have that shirt. Oh, it's only $8? Oh my gosh. Well, I got $8. I wouldn't mind having that shirt. Click, click, click. Here's my $8. You go 2 weeks later, you're like, I ordered a shirt. What happened to that shirt? And that never showed up. And then you go look in your bank account and you realize, oh, $800 was taken out of my bank account and there is no shirt, right? I mean, it's just, and then you go looking for that ad, you can't find it, it's long gone. I mean, these are up for a 24-hour period. They're trying to just rake in as many unsuspecting people as they can. Yes, of course, Facebook and they're under a mandate to try and crack down on that stuff, but they also are in the business of making money. Did they get paid for that ad? You bet they did. They don't get a cut of the sale, but they got paid for that ad, and the click and the fact that I clicked on it meant they got paid more. So they're incentivized wrongly to engage it, to have that practice. And so so there's just so much fake commerce particularly within social media now. It's really hard to distinguish what's real and what's not anymore. And it's one of the reasons, like with Facebook, my habits have really shifted. I am just not on Facebook anymore just because it's inundated with so much non-interesting content to me, right? And so, yeah. Anyways, yeah, Gene.
What about YouTube?
Gene's asking about YouTube, right? YouTube is considered a social media platform, but it also it sort of is its own thing in that it's a streaming platform for video stuff. For example, we have all of our worship videos are hosted on our YouTube channel. We have a channel. By the way, you know how much we pay Google and that owns YouTube? You know how much we pay them to host? I don't know how many hours of video of a Prince of Peace content we have generated here. You know how much we pay them to host that? Zero. Exactly. Zero. It's amazing. It's amazing that and yeah, it does open us up to some, we're much more public as of that. Again, you can figure out who the pastor of this church is really quickly by going to our YouTube page. But within all of our videos, there is the capability of commenting and communicating. And within YouTube, if you set up, you can have your Google account or your own YouTube account. You can comment on things as that person, and people have created online communities like social media within the YouTube platform. Typically, it's around the fan base of particular content creators. So you guys are my fan base, aren't you? I mean, you could be on YouTube every day talking, hey, that was really a great sermon, Pastor Peter. In fact, I really loved when you said X, Y, and Z. And, and you could start having a conversation with me or with each other about the stuff that we're creating. That's not really how we're organized, but, and I certainly don't have time to be monitoring the comments on our Google page or on our YouTube page, but so there is a social media aspect to that. There is a tremendous amount of online commerce that happens relative to YouTube as well. But and I don't have any specific examples of fraud, but there are. I know there are within the YouTube universe as well. Okay, you see the list here. These were all 15 things. Now it's choose your own adventure. What are you most curious? Or maybe there's something on this list that you're like, aha, this thing happened to me. Is there, if you're willing to share, is there, what in this, somebody shout out a category and we'll go check it out.
I don't have a category, but I don't know if it fits which one it would, which category it would fit into.
Well, is something that happened to you, Dave?
No.
Or something you're familiar with?
Yeah, friends. We've had friends or relatives.
I'm gonna just turn it up to this.
Yeah, friends or relatives. One is our friend's son, and that he was involved in it, but it was actually her father received a phone call saying that his grandson was in trouble and needed some money.
Yep.
And he got caught for quite a bit of money. I'm not sure if it was
He was in jail.
yeah, the grandson was in jail, and then but the way they got the money through that was did he need to go to Target or online Target?
Right.
Get gift cards and yeah.
So huge arena of
Yeah.
some kind of impersonation, right? And the thing about in the digital world is, you have to make decisions about who the person you're interacting with based on the things that you're not used to. You're not seeing their face, you're not in the same room with them, or reading their handwriting, which is, when my mom sends me a letter, I know it's hers, right? Like no one could fake my mom's handwriting, right? But when she sends me an email, how do I tell, handwriting isn't a giveaway, or if I'm not seeing her face or hearing her voice. So very, very common. I wish I had kept an example of this. And maybe some of you have this experience. Have you ever gotten an email from me saying this? I really need your help today. Can you spare me just a few minutes? I'm about to go on a meeting, so you can't call, but would you just let me know if you're available? And then if you email back, which has happened, well, sure, I can help. What do you need? Oh, thank you. We have some people who really are desperate, and I need you to go to Target and get a $100 gift card. Don't worry, the church will reimburse you. Go get that gift card, and then once you have it, you need to, over the course of a number of exchanges, you need to, just in the email, give me the numbers off the back of that credit card, or off the back of that gift card. So, happens all the time. And in fact, I am certain it has happened to the point of success, even within our community of faith, right? And I'm unaware the whole time because they're never talking with me. They're only communicating. So here is my plea. I will just hear my commitment to you. I will always ask you personally if I need your help with money things, right? You'll get that from me directly. Now, I might pick up the phone and call you, and you're welcome to challenge that and say, well, is this really Pastor Peter? And I'll tell you, the last time we spoke and give you some clues or something like that. But I generally don't do that, right? You guys know that we raise money for our discretionary fund, right? For the pastor's discretionary fund. And I have access to that. And so when I need gift cards to help somebody out, I have the money to go do it. Now this scam that I just described is I'm too busy to go do it myself right then. And so I won't ever do that. I'll send Kristen. There are other mechanisms. Just because I know this scam exists, so I don't want to do anything that even looks remotely like this scam to have people wondering. So John, you were going to add to that.
I'll pick up on the grandparents scams. There was a new one. A few months ago, I was on a blog on senior scams. And one of the other people on there was a detective from Roseville. And he pointed out that now with AI, they can take one of your grandson's voice prints off in the social media and make an appeal that you would not believe that wasn't your grandson. Because you may pick up that, hey, that didn't sound like my grandson.
Yeah, that's an
But
that's an evil evolution right there, right? With AI now, we don't know what's going to happen with visual reproduction and audio reproduction of voice patterns and things like that. Like that, it's a scary new world, right? When it comes to that. Yeah, David.
The last time I bought some gift cards at Target, they actually said, is this some sort, did somebody ask you to buy these?
Right.
And so they're trying to double check.
Yeah,
make sure.
yeah. So that's good to hear a corporate, responsibility taking
It's the
some.
right button, I thought.
Yeah, who asked you to buy these gift cards, right?
I guess
Yeah.
it didn't work.
Is there lights on is there a readout? Yeah. Okay.
Push the button.
Yeah, there it is.
Okay, so Rose Plumbing was over to my house a couple weeks ago and they said one of their clients got scammed for I forget if it was $30,000. So they said, the person called and thought she was getting Rose Plumbing. It was sort of a new phone number.
Yeah.
And they said, you need to pay the $100 for us to come out to your house. Well, Rose Plumbing's never asked for that before, but she
Sure.
thought, must be a new way of doing things. So she
I like those guys from Rose Plumbing. They're good plumbers.
Yeah,
I'm
they are
happy
good.
that I have them. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, so he said now it's costing him huge amounts of money for insurance to cover for the future, which is making our bills go up.
Oh, man. Yeah. Unbelievable.
I wonder if the batteries.
Oh,
Yeah.
maybe.
Okay, I can
Mine's
yell.
kind of starting to fade too. It is.
Yeah, well, I know I rely on a lot of humor just to get by every day. It's overwhelming. I think about all this, really garbage we have to deal with constantly. And I have a business and so I have a website and, it's just, there's so many examples of this. Just recently, I got 2 requests for $299 on PayPal, and I just have to not respond. But then I feel like, oh yeah, I should call PayPal and report this, and it's my time. But anyway, just takes up so much brain space. But back to the humor. Have any of you seen Thelma in the theater, the movie theater? It's based on a true story. And this elderly woman plays this grandmother who was called and she was really tempted to put cash in an envelope and mail it off. Well, in the movie, she does it. In real life, she didn't do it, but her grandson made this movie, I think. It's really wonderful and it's funny, humorous, and I highly recommend it.
Speaking of AI, this camera that we have now is controlled by AI. It tracks my face and follows me around the room,
Wow.
except it must not like my face. Drifting up to the ceiling and anywhere. Look at anything besides Bowser's computer. So, anyways, but I'll speak loudly. I know I've got a big voice, but yeah, go ahead, Maisie.
Well, I think we've been told if you get a call from a so-called grandchild, hang up and call them back
Yeah.
if you have any question. But I have had 3 calls like that myself. And 2 of them were the same person, but it was so ridiculous that I answered and it was a landline. Always, it's easier to do this, I guess, on landline.
Yeah.
And the person said, "Hello, Grandma." And they pretended they were my grandchild. And I thought, what? And I said back, I quickly answered, "For a 2-year-old, you have a really deep voice."
Here's an example of another sort of a phishing scam, and again, this literally came on Friday. Okay, so Steve Ander, who's Steve Ander?
He's our custodian.
He's our custodian. Many of you have never met Steve, but Steve and we, because he works odd hours, we tend to communicate a lot via email with Steve about things that are happening and that kind of stuff. And so Steve sent an email to our bookkeeper, this is a legitimate address. This is the right place if you want to connect with Karen and a bit, around the church or whatever. He said that bookkeeper, P.O.P. Roswell. "Hi, Karen, please send me a PDF copy of our church directory." Thank Steve. All right, let's identify what's wrong with this email.
From Gmail.
Okay.
address.
Gmail, right, yeah. Now, Steve doesn't actually have a church email address, but we certainly know that it is not
Yeah.
J21888881. Steve's is like Steve at Hotmail or something like that. Like he's got, I don't remember what his actual email is, but that jumps out at me right away. Now, sometimes your reader, what you're using to read your emails in doesn't actually show this part. It will only show the name, the display name. So you kind of got to, sometimes you have to click on that name or hover over it to see what the address is that comes up. But yeah, that's a big tell right there. What's another tell?
Subject,
The
director.
subject matter, yeah, director, which maybe is just a typo, like directory would, just forgot, I fat finger a lot, so not exactly, the nail in the coffin here, but a symbol that somebody's being sloppy and maybe doesn't know our language very well, that kind of thing, yeah. Same with thank, right? Yeah, thank. And what else is, he's the janitor of our church.
Why does he need?
Why does he need a PDF copy of our directory?
Yeah.
Now, who would benefit from having a PDF copy of our directory with all kinds of personal information and contact information? The scammers, right? This is a huge phishing scam. Now, yeah, poor Steve, he actually has another good example.
Yeah, members lists are
Here it is.
great things
Oh,
to have
Right.
if you're a
Especially when
scammer.
you have phone
Our
numbers.
Kiwanis
Yeah,
Club is.
yeah, and then you can
twice.
pretend to be anybody in that book and try to reach out to anybody else in that book, right? And it's not just about.
Or reach out to all in that book
Oh my
with your
Right.
appeal.
Right, yeah. So this is another common one we get. And we actually fell victim to this at Prince of Peace in my first year here. So when it was sort of first starting to happen. So, hello, Kristen. I need to change my banking information before the next payroll is completed. What details do you need? Oh, from Steve Ander, custodian, please advise. Steve's never, ever spoken quite so formally, so, but this is, also Steve Ander, and then it's Selene Corporation.
Gmail again.
Yeah, like totally go, like what, but that's an interesting address, you know, kind of pretending to be some sort of a business, probably leftover email address from some other scam, right? That some scammer has got, is too lazy to set up a new email account, because they're just like, I already got this other Gmail set up, I'll just use that one, right? And I'll pretend to be Steve Ander. So, Kristen recognized her right away, but she was just sort of curious. And just said, sure, Steve, send me your information. I'll take care of it. So here, this came from the scammer. Here's all the thing. Legitimate banking information. Anybody ever heard of Bonneville Bank?
No.
Why would Steve Ander be doing business with a bank that doesn't do business in Minnesota? Right? Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, I mean, we already knew this was a scam before we got to this part. We were just curious to see where it went. And then she says, I've passed this along to Karen. We'll make sure it's updated on your next paycheck. Great, thanks so much from Steve. We did not do that. Now, 6 years ago, we did
Oh,
for Steve.
oh,
Wow.
Tara got an email. Our old office administrator got an email just like this one. And was just, oh, this is so easy. I got all the information I need. I can just go in and make the changes and boom. His next paycheck got created.
oh my
And then
goodness.
Steve said, hey, I didn't get paid last week.
Oh, my goodness.
So fortunately, our bank stepped in and helped us out, and they they put a stop on the thing. I think they actually were able to stop. We didn't have to pay we weren't out the paycheck amount of money or whatever. It was a pain to get straightened out, but it was we got through it okay, and Tara learned a really important lesson. And so she also got an email from me once. I remember I was traveling and I was on a plane. I wasn't on my phone, like I wasn't on email. And she had gotten an email and was responding to one of these requests to like help with an emergency assistance thing. And it's like, oh, well, of course he can't talk right now. He's flying, but he could be sending me emails. No, you know, and she was to the point of running to Target to go get some gift cards and stuff. And so we just had to, you know, this is in the early days when we still didn't have real clarity around what our policies should be and stuff like that. So, yeah.
I think I have a more helpful comment than go see a movie, but I do recommend that movie for laughs.
I heard about that.
So I'm, you know, it's kind of embarrassing to talk about feeling like I've been scammed. And so, I don't know if it was a year or two ago, I really like talking to people, to real people. And I do have a business. So a lot of times I will answer my phone. I've kind of learned my lesson now, but now I just let people leave messages. But I will answer my phone and often get someone who wants to work with me. And I'm a life coach. And I got a call from this woman, and it was like 6:30 in the evening. And I spoke with her for, 40 minutes. And she was super sweet. She sounded like, you know, all these judgments came up. And so I feel like this might offend someone, but she sounded like she was a trans person and she was getting married and she didn't have, I don't know, it was like no friends, but she didn't sound unhappy. Anyway, right away, I assumed she was calling me to be her life coach. And she kind of, I was giving away information without realizing it. You know, she never even used my name and she didn't. And so anyway, I said to her, you know, that's not how this works. You have to send me money first. So I was saying, you know, yeah, put a check in the mail and then we can talk about working together. And she was saying things like, I want you to be in my wedding and I'll pick you up with a limo. Would you like to do that? Would you dress up? I mean, it was just all this very odd stuff, but I was listening.
Yeah.
And then I said, you know, that's how this works. You just do this, blah, blah, blah. And I was, you know, I never got an email address for her, but she had my phone number and I had their phone number. And I said, you know, that's how it works. So I've got to get off the phone. The next day she started texting me and calling and I didn't respond. But then about a week later, and I really did feel weird, you know, it was like, oh, it took up so much of my time and who knows what this person's doing. Okay, in between times, I looked online, and I said, why would someone do that? You know, and it said, they're trying to get you to say the word yes, and they record your yes in your voice.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was fascinating.
Yeah.
Because then I got another call and I took it and I was, you know, sure to say sure, or I don't know, you know, instead of yes. And then I heard a person in the background with a foreign accent saying, you know, it was like she was mad at the person on the phone. She wasn't doing her job, getting me to answer
The call
and
center,
give her
yeah.
information. It was painful.
Yeah.
And I just felt so ripped off. But it also, I'm so glad I learned, and it was that simple thing that someone else had put online and said, they're trying to get you to just say the word yes.
Yeah.
It's scary.
Yeah, very scary.
Huh.
Let's talk quickly about this arena, because this is particularly the data and everything you read about it, it is particularly poignant for older adults, our elders who don't feel so competent with their technology, right? And your devices. So remember back when that email with the download here link, and it puts malware on your computer. If you had happened to click on something like that, one of the little malwares that could have been put on your computer is that the second time you start it up, after you get that little thing, or the third time, or whatever it is, a window pops up on your screen that says, contact Dell support immediately, or contact Microsoft. And your system has been compromised, you need to, you know, and we'll help you. And so you call the number that's on that screen, or you hit the link to get to the, you know, whatever it is, and you're in a complete scam situation, and they're gonna convince you on the phone, you're talking to the same call center that Karen was talking to. They're gonna convince you that you need to, you know, spend $300 to have them log into your computer and fix all your problems for you, and or whatever it might be. They're going to either harvest information off your computer, or they're going to get your banking information because you want to pay with a credit card, or whatever the thing is. And you don't need any of it. It's because you've got this malware on there. So my hope is that you all have some idea of where you could get trusted computer support if your computer starts to, if you have problems with it and that kind of thing. And so Maisie, then Gary.
I went to tech support, and my son wasn't available to help me. And I thought I'd try this myself, and I went to Geek Squad.
Geek Squad, yeah.
And I wasn't careful
Talk
enough.
into the mic.
I wasn't careful enough to realize.
Yeah, right at your mouth.
Yes.
Yep,
Pointed at you.
great.
To realize there might be a scammed Geek Squad. And I ended up in India,
Oh.
and I thought, how unusual. Well, he was the kindest man. I had a grammar school. And before I would, let me help you, he took over my computer.
Oh, no.
And now I got nervous, and he said, you need a new firewall. And now, that'll be $300, but, and I thought, what is going on? But I was so terrified. It went on from there, and well, $500 will give you many more years. I said, I'm not sending anybody. Thank goodness I gave him no information. And I called my neighbor who was home, and I said, help me, and he cut down that I turned off the computer.
Yeah.
I shut her down completely and got rid of it because I was afraid they had completely taken
Yeah.
over.
Yeah.
It was a scary experience.
Yeah, Gary.
Oh, same kind of story.
Yeah.
Same kind of story that happened. Jean was on the computer and no fault of hers now, okay. Had this thing, it came through and click on this number because things were moving on the screen.
Yeah.
She clicked on the number, and of course, bingo, there, everything was going, she yelled for me. I went in, and luckily I keep an address and name and phone number of a trusted tech guy that I know. has a small business, so I called him immediately and he says, you unplug your computer right now, he said, and bring it to me. So I did that, and he said, you got real lucky, because they didn't get anything personal on it, off of it at all, so, same kind of story.
There's a whole subgenre of, like, true crime stories all around this phenomenon known as catfishing, which is people who fall victim to online relationships, or what they believe are online relationships, with people who are completely fictitious. Even to the point now where it's a lot of AI generated stuff, and it doesn't even have to be a human person trying to, manipulate someone's affections and whatever it might be. And so, if you have anybody in your life that is lonely or single, you take an interest in them. One, help them not feel so lonely, and help that kind of thing, and check in with them. But if anybody starts speaking about an online relationship, your antenna should go up. Now, the most popular way people meet each other this day in this day and age is online. So the digital world is a really productive and fertile place where people are meeting one another. I'll throw out the example. My son and his girlfriend, who both went to Luther College, who have now been dating for about 6 months or so, and really enjoy each other's company, and are really, as a parent, it feels like a really good, healthy relationship. They would not have actually come together had it not been for one of the dating websites things. They were a year apart at Luther, so they weren't in the same circles. But they have so much in common, and it took that platform for them to discover that about each other. That's just the reality of today's day and age. So we celebrate that they were able to find each other, but there are lots of people who are exploiting this for ill. And so what it is you build a relationship with this person, and then all of a sudden the person starts having difficulties. Oh, I can't make my mortgage payment this month, or my kid is sick and whatever. They got every story out of the world. But I mean, what do people who have fallen in love with each other do? We take care of you. And that's one way we show our affection. We help them out in their times of trouble, right? And we open ourselves up in those ways. Or we promise, hey, I'll come, will you send me money for a plane ticket? I'll come visit you. We could finally be together, that kind of stuff. There is lots of that kind of stuff out there, unfortunately, but there is, let's get to this with the last few minutes we have. How to protect yourself. Start with being a skeptic, right? If we orient ourselves, and this should be everything that we read online, all the things that we engage, is this a trusted source? So if I'm on Facebook, I immediately say everything I'm reading, including things that might be coming from, that look like they might be my own wife, right? You got to be careful. Like, people can imitate one another very easily, right? And so pay attention. Be a natural skeptic, especially when you're working in the corners of the internet that are as we've talked about, that are
A healthy dose of skepticism will serve you well.
That's right. A healthy dose of skepticism. Verify identities. So if Pastor Peter sent you an email, guess what you can do? Call the church. Did Pastor Peter just send me an email asking me to go get him a gift card? Even if I'm not available, ask Kristen. She'll verify the fact that, no, Pastor Peter is in Tahiti today with his wife. Wouldn't that be wonderful?
Because a lot of other people gave him gift cards.
Right? Yeah, because he's got all these gift cards this time. Call the church. See if you can't verify. Do what Maisie did. Hey, I'll call you right back. Your grandchild or whatever it is. I was going to mention with the grandchild thing, I've heard of this and I think this is really bright. Have a code word with your loved ones, your grandkids, and that kind of stuff. So, well, what's our code word? you know, Karen, you're like, what's, you know, and you say pineapple, and you're like, okay, now I know I'm talking, you know, how would a scammer know what that it was, right? You know, and so, and you gotta practice those code words too, and so you kind of make it a part of your everyday, hey, grandma pineapple, you know, and yeah, it's me, you know.
I think, I heard about, this elderly woman, my husband's aunt, I think it was, you know, they knew all about her grandson's. They had all the information and they were saying he needed help, he needed money. And they didn't know the name, but she said, well, what's our dog's name? What's his dog's name? And they didn't know it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that saved them. It was
Yeah.
like a code word.
Yeah, exactly, like a code word. That's that verify thing. Secure your accounts. We all have hopefully encountered this two-factor identification. So when you're logging into your account on your bank site, for example, you can no longer just do that. You also have to get a text message or an email to verify. That's called two-factor. It is a pain in the butt, but I'll tell you, it is a game changer when it comes to fraud, because it really does thwart a lot of the scamming activity that was happening beforehand. So every time I feel inconvenienced by that, I also give thanks that I still have the money in my bank account that I was expecting to be there. So avoid unsecure payments. Now, yes, this world is shifting into digital realms, and so who's heard of Venmo?
No.
Yeah. Oh, you've all, yeah. You can trust Venmo as long as you're on the Venmo app. That you know you've verified you've got the right piece of software, and it's not something that's made to look like Venmo or something, you know. And once you've created your account, you should never have to add your banking information again. So if all of a sudden you're on something and it's asking something that you've used before, and it's asking you to re-enter your banking information, that should be a flag to you. You shouldn't have to keep entering information once you've entered. If you have to change your information, that's a different process. But yeah, keep up to date on stuff. What to do if you feel like you're a victim? Do what Maisie did. Shut the computer down. Take a break, walk away from it. Change your passwords on your accounts. Oh, the bane of my existence, passwords, right? Yeah. We keep getting promised retina scans and thumbprints and all that kind of stuff, but that hasn't happened yet. So change your passwords, keep changing your passwords. Alert there are sometimes you have quick links to this stuff as you're engaging things, but you can alert the credit agencies, especially if you did get your bank account got hacked or something along those lines. Obviously stay in contact with your bank. They all have fraud departments who are eager to be helpful to you the more that because they have a responsibility, they're insured, but they want to help mitigate these problems as quickly and be as helpful as possible. If you have a chance to report that, this is something I found online, report phishing. I think that's legit. I want to double check that before but what Gmail, if you're in Gmail, if that's your main account holder, and you're getting things to your Gmail from other Gmail accounts that are fraud or scams, there's a really quick way to just report that address. My hope, the more people that report that address, the algorithms will shut it down, and the scammers will be, you know, it won't catch everybody, but they'll be able to shut it down quickly.
Pastor, one of the, like, if you get a text, obviously it'll have a phone number, but if that phone number has a 2-digit number ahead of it, it probably came from
It's
offshore.
Yeah, good point. So we got to end it there because I got to go get tuned up for the next service. So, but thank you very much again.